off with then. So for those of you that have not met me on any lives or on my Facebook group or on my page, my name is Alex Carling and I'm a psychotherapist in private practice and I'm based on the Princess Avenue in Hull. Before I started working solely in private practice, I was employed by our local Women's Aid refuge, that's Hull Women's Aid, for 12 years. And whilst I was there, I did a few jobs, but the one that I spent the most time doing was working with children and young people. And the funding for that was between the ages of 0 and 25. So I worked with a wide range from like really young children, which often involved working with the mums in order to be able to work through the children's stuff. But it was a lot of trauma and abuse. So they either experienced the trauma vicariously from, being part of the domestic abuse. And sometimes it was actually directed at them as well. But either way, they had a lot of emotional difficulties. And I'm sure you can appreciate that that's a really sensitive subject. So I'm pretty much a black and white thinker as standard. And so I'd have a lot of theory and I'd go in and have an idea about how I was going to work. And I soon learned that I had to let the children guide me as to which way they were going to let me work with them. So if you consider entering a building, the most obvious route is through the front door. However, when we're working with children, because they have limited capacity with regards to their thinking, their language, their emotional awareness, quite often the front door isn't available. So what I had to learn instead was how to test the other windows, the back door, sometimes climb up a drain pipe and enter through a fire escape window. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I'm sure you can get the drift. So the reason I want to do this masterclass is because it would be easier and it's most familiar for us to ask direct questions to children in hope that they're going to give us a direct answer, but it doesn't work because of their limited capacity. Developmentally, they're not able to engage in the way that we do. So I learned a lot from them, and that's what I want to share with you today. I have theory and I have tools, and now I present those tools to the children and young people that I work with, and I let them guide me on how they're going to use it. Because our preconceived ideas about what is meant to happen when we play a game or engage in an activity with young children can contaminate or thwart their natural path. So their natural way of thinking, their natural way of engaging in fantasy thinking, and it's their natural ways of thinking that we need to tap into. So we need to go onto their level in order to get the information that we need from them. So that's what I'm going to cover with you today. So there's 3 steps that I'm going to cover, and I'm also going to cover those using 3 different themes that I shared earlier in the event. So we are going to look at relationships, feelings, and self-esteem. The 3 different stages that I go through when I'm trying to devise a tool to use. Hi Lisa, sorry, just pause a second, kicked me off, so joined. So sorry, my computer's frozen. The mouse won't even, the cursor won't even move, so people are laughing. So I can't, Zoom has stopped. I'll have to have a backup ready for next time, so I really apologise, but thank you for coming and joining us here anyway. So I've just introduced myself basically, Lisa. You've not missed a lot. I'm just about to start talking about the 3 different stages that I go through when I'm trying to create a tool which allows me to talk to children about difficult emotions and thoughts. So the first one is to consider the outcome. I always need to think about what it is that I want the outcome to be. So if you think of your own situation, I want you to consider a problem that you have. What is the ideal outcome of trying to get them to talk or trying to get them to share their experiences. And then I think about the ways in which they feel most comfortable. When do you see your children being more fluid with regards to the talking? Or when do you find them, what are they engaging in that you find them being most comfortable? So that's their way in. So when we talk about the front door would be the most obvious and easiest option. Think of the ways that they often engage in, that they feel most comfortable, most relaxed, and most emotionally safe, and then use that as your way in. So for me, in my work history, that's depending on the age, but we're talking about primary school age children here. Sometimes it's been puppets. Sometimes it's been a computer game, and I've had to do a lot of work on the computer and, clip art and getting Lego characters, for example, or Pac-Man, and creating an activity on the computer that's going to appeal to them, because then they're more open to do it. So their way in, the way that they feel most comfortable. And then I need to create a way to get my outcome using their way in. So using the themes that I've said, let's look at relationships first. Now, relationships, when I worked at Women's Aid, was a really big thing because there was a huge breakdown in trust with the children that I worked with, because more often than not, the perpetrator of the abuse was somebody that the young person had an attachment with. So there's a huge breakdown in trust. In order for me to be able to explore that without directly saying, so tell me what John did, or tell me what your dad did. If I said that, emotionally, the children would shut down. One, because they've never had permission to speak about it. Perhaps this abuse has been happening for years and they've been told the scary stories about what could happen if they talk. So I was against some really big barriers. So I had to be really creative. And a way that I did that, if the child was able to draw and to be quite creative. And I think a lot of computer games now encourage strategic play, don't they? So about creating worlds and access and, kind of ways to keep people out. So when I talk about relationships, I would use an activity called the 3 islands. From that then, let's consider the 3 stages that I go through. So my outcome from doing the 3 islands activity would be, I want to gain an understanding about their relationships, their attachment, where they feel safe, where they don't feel safe, and possibly what I could change for that young person. So that was my outcome. I wanted to gain awareness about their reality and their life without making them sit down opposite me. I mean, the eye contact with children is quite intimidating. So without eye contact, being creative, our eyes were down on the paper to find out a little bit about their world. I already had the way that they was going to let me in, because I'd spent a lot of time getting to know them. So you'll know your children, you'll know the things that they like. And so then you'd think about how are you going to use those 2 things. So this 3 island activity, you get a really large piece of paper, and if they're able to, get them to draw 3 different islands. And I want the islands, let's say this is a screen, to fill the paper. So a really big island over here, a really big island over there, and a really big island over there. I've made the mistake sometimes by getting the children to draw these, but sometimes they draw really tiny islands. So judge it. If you need to draw it, it's okay. So when I talk about letting them dictate how we use it, find your balance. Draw 3 really big islands. And I want you to, if you were to do this activity, you would label one island the island of always, another island the island of sometimes, and the last one, island of never. And the way in which we can learn about children's relationships, if we do that, is that we get them to explore their social network. So who would they put on the island of always? Who would they put on the island of sometimes, and who would they put on the island of never? At this stage, I don't ask too many questions. So I just show curiosity and I go, that's interesting. Who's that? And who I notice that looks like them because I've got curly hair. So just really engage and stroke the creativity that they're doing. So it encourages them to go further. To further it then, to give them an insight and using their fantasy thinking, get them to create a climate for each weather. So it gives you an idea about almost what they want to inflict using their fantasy thinking. No one's being harmed. They're not outwardly being rude or, saying it inappropriately. It's done through creative play, so they get the permission through that. So you can get them to create a climate. And you can also ask them what animals live on the islands. What do the people eat on those islands? If the people in Island of Always and Island of Sometimes communicate, how do they get from one island to the next? Who holds the key, if there is a key? Can you see how you start to engage the children in their fantasy thinking? And it creates it's non-directive, so they feel an element of safety to talk about what it is that's going on for them. So this could be, with regards to the work that I did at Women's Aid, it was very much about family and extended family and the safety or the element of unsafety that they lived in. You can do friendships as well. Any relationships. If you think that there's a problem at school and or maybe there's a problem at school but you don't actually know exactly where it lies, this activity would be really useful for that. So you get them to put the friends on the different islands and you get to explore it. Let's see if I've missed anything out that I wanted to say. Yes, I've just put just to be curious. I wanted to tell you about how this can turn out. We forget that the children don't always have the language to be able to communicate and say, this happened, this is how I felt, this is what I would want to happen, this is how now I feel unsafe. But when children use this activity, they draw sharks around the island of never. They, kind of circle it with barbed wire. They create thunderstorms, and if they've got that level of awareness, they say the sun never shines, so food can't grow. And it allows you, it's sometimes difficult to sit with, and especially because I'm talking to you as parents and carers, it's very different for you. But you really do get an insight into their world. And I think that to show curiosity, I think I always avoid the word why. So like, why have you done that? It feels a little bit, kind of parental and finger wagging. But I'll go, I notice that you did that. How come you did that? Or how come they're there? It just feels a little softer. So, although they're not fully equipped with their language, they're very sensitive to the language that we use. So it would be outcome. What outcome do I want? I would get to know the relationships that they value, the relationships that they value a little bit less, and the relationships that they no longer wish to have or that are causing them a problem. So it gives me information then to be able to speak to other people perhaps, or do another activity to explore that a little bit further. So the way in with that is creativity. It's fantasy thinking, it's creating worlds, it offers a really deep connection between you and your child that you're doing it with. And there's a huge permission that comes along with that, which is that it's okay to talk this way. It's okay to have thoughts and feelings about people. It's okay for us to want to inflict stuff. It isn't okay if we go and do that, but to feel them really strong, intense feelings is okay. Let me just check with Martin. So you start off with a map of 3 islands. I'll get the child to draw it. If they can draw it, Martin, get them to draw the islands. But as I was saying, sometimes they'll draw really tiny islands and you want them to be able to fit people in them and to create a climate. So if they can, maybe, you know, give them a stencil or something, I don't know, but I try and let them lead it as much as they can. But sometimes what they might create we can't use. So if they can draw really big islands and fill the paper with the 3 islands, then I'd let them do it themselves. Is there any questions on this activity before I move on? So what we're saying basically is that we can't go through the front door with children. We can't just rely on language. When we ask children what they think or what they feel, if they feel unnerved by that, if they believe, whether it is or it isn't, if they believe that it's a sensitive subject or that they've come across distaste when they've spoken to people about it in the past, they will be focusing more on whether it is right or wrong to say it. And if you've got a sensitive child, they may be focusing more on what reaction you're going to have. Let's not forget that as parents and carers, we are their primary attachment. And when we are young, we are dependent. We rely 100% on our attachments to survive. And we learn very quickly how to navigate those. So if your child believes that it's not okay for whatever reason to talk about Bob, or, you know, sticking with the relationships theme, Auntie Jill, they're not going to. But if you are more creative and you keep being creative, it gives it permission. It's not directive. And it's using their language, the ways in which, you know, we talk about behavior being a language. Creativity is a language. Music is a language. And they're the things that we need to be using to engage our children. Do it one go or step by step if time is limited? I think it depends on, sorry, I mumbled that. Martin just said you do it in one go or step by step if time limited. You can break things down. I've done self-esteem gardens before that have been done over weeks, and similarly this can, but quite often, depending on the ability of the child, I work with some children, and when I first start doing drawing activities with them, I think, oh, this is a little bit too much, because they are so such a fine attention to detail that they take ages to draw a person. So if you're working with a child like that, or your child is like that, then you might need to spread it out so that they don't lose concentration and they can stay focused. And it helps as well to revisit it, because it builds up that permission and the experience of doing it together. Right, so I'm going to move on and I'm going to talk about feelings. Now, Kimberly, are you watching? You said that you was able to come, and I'm going to talk about the question that you posted in the event when I cover this. But Kimberly said that she wanted some advice working with her child. I can't remember who it was. I think it was a son. I don't know how old he was. That was quite impulsive with his emotions. His behavior was inappropriate or out of context, and he hated himself afterwards, and she wanted advice how to work with that. So I think it's really important to say that sometimes we need to build the foundations before we can expect our children to start talking. So there's no naming really of feelings in that activity that I did with the 3 islands. But if you want to start talking about feelings and getting them to be able to become more aware about what the triggers are and what their reaction is and how it affects their behavior, then you really need to do some foundation work. So that's what I'm going to cover in this one. So I think Martin shared, if you're a member of the group, Martin shared some feelings card. He shared there was needs on there and there was feelings as well, and you could use those for this activity, or you can create your own, or you can just rely on drawing, depending on, again, the way in that your child would let you. So my outcome for this would be that I want children to be able to engage in dialogue, and I want them to be able to think about their thinking. So quite often when children go into crisis or their emotions spill out, we can pull them back at that point. We have to wait till afterwards because of the way that the nervous system reacts with intense emotions. So afterwards, if I want a child to be able to reflect and build up their knowledge for the next time that it happens, I will use feelings cards in this activity. So I would want to develop their awareness. I'd want to be able to reflect. I'd want them to be able to think about their thinking. So next time that they spill out, I might say, can you think of one thing that happened last time that it happened? And I will encourage them to make the connections all the time. So for this, I often go and get cheap wallpaper, and I roll it out for the length of the child's body, and we will draw around their body. So if they've got a sibling, or they could even draw around yours, that's the most fun part, isn't it? So long as you'll fit on some wallpaper, maybe sellotape 2 pieces together, get them to draw a silhouette, and use either those feelings cards or words or drawings to talk about where we feel different feelings. Now, generally, if they're quite young, I start with the basics. I start with happy, sad, angry, scared, and they're the ones that I will put onto the body. When I did it at work, I did Lisa, I wouldn't fit. When I did it at work, I would do it on the computer and then print it off on card, and I'd have loads and loads of happy stuff, words on circles. I'd have loads and loads of sad, scared, and angry. And I would work with the child and place either the things that Martin shared or your own words where we feel those different feelings. So, and I'd get them to go down the head. So, there's a lot of thoughts when we're angry. There's a lot of thoughts when we're sad. So there is a lot that goes on in the head, but there's a difference that they are thoughts. It's not important at this stage. The face, what happens to the face? So does it go red? Do we cry? Do we show our teeth? I want you to think about really start to break it down with them and put the feelings onto the body. What happens to our hands? What happens to our arms? Do they shake? Do we feel all shaky if we're angry? Do we find that we clench our fists? So we're constantly building up the development, or the awareness, of the children, of your children. Tummy, heart rate, lungs, legs, feet, body temperature. Break it all down, because what we're wanting to do is to build the foundation so that our children can become more aware. So when they're in situations and they find themselves crying and clinging to you, that you're able to go, do you remember when we did that activity? Or it's on the wall in the kitchen, or it's on the landing. Constantly refer to it. Even take a picture. I take a picture for my files, but take a picture and kind of get it up on your phone and help them go through it. Like, where have you got your feelings, so that you can help them become more aware. You'll develop their language, their awareness of physiology. You'll be able to refer back to it and say, when else do you feel that? So quite often, anxious and excited feel quite similar. And if a child is feeling tearful at a party, it may just be overwhelmed, but it's about breaking it down and helping them understand what's going on for them. But it's a great activity because I like to draw around you, and it's got elements of discovery in it. Another thing that sometimes I do is I ask them to explain what the feeling feels like. So they may say, I feel scared in my tummy, but I say, what does it feel like? And again, so it's developing the language. And they'll draw butterflies, or they'll draw racing shoes over the heart because it beats faster. So, there's a sense of pride that comes with this as well. So they really do engage well with it. So that's feelings, with the outcome being developing awareness and being able to have dialogue. And that also comes with its own permissions as well, doesn't it? Because it's okay to share your own experiences. I always try and get the children to answer first, because sometimes they borrow ours. So I always get them to think about it first, and then say, well, when I went to a party, I remember being young. I mean, I'd probably say to my daughter, I remember going back to primary school after the summer holidays and begging my parents not to send me because I was so worried. I felt that I cried and I'd feel it in me. So it's share your experiences, because then it normalizes it as well. And then the next time you want to go back to it or you want to reflect, the dialogue's already there. And last but not least, the one that I wanted to share was the one that I shared in the events as well. So it's titled on my blog as the family crest, but I loosely call it the shield. And I shared that with you because you can literally use that activity for anything. And so whatever your outcome, it's coming home, it's coming home. I'll leave you. See you later, Lisa. Whatever your outcome, whether you want to explore school, relationships, their self-esteem, their ideas about family, an event that happened, you can use this activity. It's a shield that you can segment off. You can half it, you can quarter it, or you can use it as a whole. Excuse me. You can use words, you can use drawings, you can use magazines to cut titles out, to cut pictures, you can use the computer to copy and paste and print them out and add them to it. And what it does is allows them to think about the meaning. So if you think crest, think about the white rose or the three lions. They all have meaning, right down to the images, right down to the colours. So get them to think about, if let's choose self-esteem, because that's what I said I was going to talk about. So I might say, get them to do it about themselves. So the crest of Alex Carling. And in exploring that, I'd be like, what are my interests? Who are the people that I have and that I love to spend time with? What music taste do I have? What colours do I like? What fashion sense do I have? So what forms my identity? That is the stuff that I would be encouraging the child that I worked with to consider in preparation for doing the shield. And again, like, you can do this on A4 paper, but you can get a nice piece of card. You can, get all your magazines into the centre of the room, and you can help them collect. But then as you partake in this, because they're relaxed and it's not directive again, they are going to feel really safe to explore this, and they're going to share just ideas without overthinking it. So without thinking about whether it's appropriate or not. And then you get them to create it. And then you can even, if it put it up in the bedroom, you can put it up on the fridge. There's a sense of pride as well, so that the permission comes with it. So you're always thinking, what outcome do I want? What is it that I want to know? What is it that I want to achieve? What is their way in? So if the front door with just forward language isn't doable, then what is? Is it Lego? Is it doing the 3 islands activity with Lego? Is it, oh gosh, I'm thinking so out of, I can't think what kids like nowadays. I mean, if it was my child, we would be probably doing, my mind's gone blank because I've just noticed. I can hear all the shouting outside. So I'm going to stop trying to think about that. But so whatever your child is interested in, you can recreate these activities to suit the way in which your child feels most safe and would let you in, and put them both together and think of an outcome. This is what I've done for the last 15 years. So it's well rehearsed. I've got some go-to things that I can do. And what's really important also is that I'm not emotionally attached to the young people and the children that I work with, and you are. So for that reason, the dimension, the dynamic is totally different for you. There may be some things that you don't feel okay to answer or to explore because it raises a lot of emotion in you, and that's okay. That's okay. It may be that you speak to school and there is somebody at school that can do it. It may be that you access a service like mine. And I mean, more and more young people are coming through into my private practice each month, really. Actually, I find that parents are more inclined to pay for private therapy for the children than they are themselves, which is really interesting. I think they've just scored. Marta's saying Barbie doll. So, Marta, if you was using a Barbie doll and you wanted to create to explore relationships, for example, it could be that you put the names of the people that she associates with, if it's at school, or her family members, and she gets to dress them a certain way, and they get certain privileges, or they, if she has a mansion or something like that, who gets to live in the mansion, and who gets to live in the doghouse. So it's just unpicking it and just changing it whichever way that you Hi Martin, you are so loyal. Right, so at that stage then, basically what I wanted to pass over is, if you can't go through the front door with language, then find a new way in. Always think about what your intention is, what it is that your goal is. And please be aware that if your goal is to rescue your children from difficult or negative feelings, then that is a huge pressure. We need to allow them to feel it. We just need to support them whilst they feel it. So we can be curious without telling them that they don't have to feel that way, because that's what shuts them down. Your hard work in being creative and creating your tools will be undone if your language is closing. So be curious. Oh, notice that you say that. How come? Oh, wow. I never thought of it that way before. That's not negative and it's not closing down. So think of a new way in. Use the tools that they already engage in, their automatic way of processing things, because that is the way that they feel most safe. So before I go and let you watch the football, do you have any questions? There's 5 people still watching. Is there anything, I've got a little bit of time, if you have to talk about anything in particular that you want to discuss, or that you've got a goal in mind. Is there anything that you want to ask with your specific goal? I also want to mention that I have a Facebook group. So I know that a lot of you on seeing the event have joined the Facebook group, but that Facebook group has recently reached 200 members, and I am going to give the parents and carers in that group an offer to work with me in coaching, and I'm not quite finished or finalised the details yet, but if you're interested, the link is with this video. Come and join the parent group, because the offer will be only available to those in the group and those on my mailing list as well. So if you join one or the other, then that offer will be made in the next 2 weeks. I'm absolutely back to back with clients this week, so I'm not going to get a chance to put it out there, but there is something to celebrate that we've got 200 members. Alexa, interested. Awesome. So you also mentioned resources. Do you have any? There is the self-esteem mirror on my blog, and there is also the crest. I am putting together a package that I will offer out, but that's a work in progress, because I fit all this stuff amongst my paid work, and I'm only in the office 3 days. So it's a work in progress, but it is coming. So I know that you're in my group, so you won't miss that. Sarah, you gave some good tips regarding my daughter's physical thing. Good. I'm glad that you found it useful. I'm always really open to you giving me feedback and asking questions. That's what the group is there for. I'm really passionate about young people being able to have the support that they need with their emotional development. That's a really difficult job for parents and carers to do. I know that, but I think that there's I know what I know because I trained and because I've spent years and years developing the tools and the skills that I've got. And parents are just busy keeping your children alive half the time. So I want you to be able to access me. Like I said, sometimes the topic is difficult or you feel like you come to a block and you may need to access professional services. But until it gets to that point, I want you to be able to take all this on yourself and to build your confidence up as well. And today I had a great news. She finally spoke in her group in circle time. She usually just shakes her head and doesn't want to share. She only said one word. Sarah, that just gave me goose pimples. That's amazing. I remember our conversation more clearly now. That's fantastic. I'm so pleased for you. Martin, you're interested too. Great. So there's only going to be 6 places in this offer. I know that much. And it's going to be a month worth of coaching for us to unpick and develop resources and ways for you to target issues and respond and continue this creativity as well. Hi, Alex. Alex, you've missed it, and why aren't you watching football? I imagine your house is going to be a bit crazy at the moment. Sarah, you're interested too. Great. So, Sarah, you're in my group, aren't you? Alex, Alexia, yeah. Martin, you are. So, yeah, you're all joined, and I will be able to communicate with you in there. So if you've got no other questions, I'm going to leave you there, and I'm going to, good work, Sarah. I'm going to pack up, and I'm going to get home whilst the roads are quiet and watch a bit of football myself. So enjoy the rest of your evening, everybody. Don't forget to get in touch and ask me any questions, and let me know what you want the next masterclass to be on. Let me know what would work for you, and I'll make it happen. All right, I'll speak to you soon. Take care for now. It's coming home. My enthusiasm. See you later. Alex, it's bonkers. I always miss this time. I know, I'm sorry. Alex, I'm going to do a next one in the daytime. All right, enjoy the rest of your night. Take care, Alexia. Bye. Bye, everyone. Martin. Marta. Goodbye.